Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I just got back from a trip to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I brought back a bunch of copper ore with me that I mined when I was up there. I'm gonna take it out to the garage, get it cleaned up, but first I'm gonna jump on the laptop and show you where you can go to mine some of your own copper ore. This is the Caledonia copper mine website. It says, finders keepers, enjoy the finest copper and mineral collecting in the world. At Caledonia Mine, you spend the day digging through your own private ore pile, and with the help of our experienced staff, you take home whatever treasures you find. If you click on this Reserve Your Spot Online button, it'll take you to a separate page where you can search by date for availability and pick which pile you want to mine. My wife and I chose to go up to the UP of Michigan the second week of October. The reason that we chose to go up that week is we wanted to take some pictures of the northern lights, and we also wanted to do a couple hikes while the leaves were changing. So it was a perfect time to go up. That's like the peak time for taking photos of the fall colors. So it was beautiful at the mine. It was beautiful when we drove from town to town up there. I actually got the family size ore pile at the mine. It was $200. It says 3 to 4 adults for 4 hours. My wife and I used a metal detector and a pinpointer. It took us about 2 hours to go through the pile. What they do is bring you a pile of ore from the mine and dump it on the parking area. And then you can take picks or shovels and spread it out, search through it with a metal detector. Or they also have a hose that you can spray the pile down and look for your copper ore just by sight. Most of it looks bluish or greenish in color, so it's not that hard to see once it gets cleaned up. That's definitely the messier way to do it. I went through with the metal detector first and then went back with the water at the end. And once you start using the water, everything gets kind of wet and mushy. You can also get a single person ore pile for $100. That's half as much material. It's 1.5 yards instead of 3 yards. Or you can pay $50 and search their tailings pile. There's a gigantic tailings pile there. That's all tailings from when they were mining the mine. And the tailings from people's private ore piles get dumped in there also. They said about a couple times a year they turn it over, so you can go in there and search for copper nuggets. There's also a datolite pile for $300. It's 1.5 yards of material. I didn't find any datolites in the pile that I got. They said there might be some in there. I didn't find any little pieces of silver in the pile. But I did find some pieces of copper ore that have datolite material in the ore. So I'm hoping that once I get it dipped in the acid and start getting it cleaned up, that maybe some of that will pop out and we'll be able to see some of the datolite material in the actual bigger pieces of copper ore that I brought back. Caledonia Mine's a family-run business. I worked with Bethany the entire time that I was booking. I was actually going to book a pile the last week that they were going to be open, but when I went to book it about a month before our vacation, I noticed that I couldn't book that week. It said call for information, so I called Bethany, talked to her. She said that she was actually closing the mine a week early because nobody was booking for that week. So I ended up talking to her back and forth, and we figured out that it would actually work for us both to go in and do a pile on Monday. And she was great working with me to try and get me in there one last day before they closed the mine for the season. So I really appreciate that she worked with me on that. And she was a dream to work with. Every time I emailed or texted her, she responded right away. I mean, the The service up there is kind of sketchy, so there were some times where it was long conversations between us texting back and forth where it would be an hour between each response. So be aware of that if you're trying to get a hold of people at the mine, that it might take a little time for them to respond just because the service isn't that great up there. But other than that, everything worked out great. I highly recommend visiting if you're on vacation in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's something that I think would be really fun if you have kids to go in and find some copper. But be aware if you go that the copper specimens that you find are going to be rough copper ore. So if you want it to look like a copper nugget, shiny like a copper nugget, there is going to be some cleaning involved once you get it back to your house. So it's all going to be kind of corroded, kind of greenish, bluish copper when you pull it out of the pile, and you're going to have to clean the copper somehow. I'm going to clean it in muriatic acid in the garage, do a rough cleaning on it, and then I'm going to take a look at it and see what it looks like and see if it needs another step to help shine the copper up, make it look a little cleaner and shinier. So let's head out to the garage and see what we can do. This is a look at some of the copper ore that I brought back from Michigan. You can see it's just rough copper ore. There's quite a few pieces that have little outcroppings, copper outcroppings on them. You can see it just looks kind of blue-green colored. The copper is all corroded. I think that this piece is going to be almost all copper. It's definitely the heaviest piece. And you can see a little bit of the copper color here and there on it. Just needs to be cleaned up. This is probably a piece that I'll soak in acid overnight and see if I can just get rid of all the host rock and have just a copper nugget that's left. I also found a bunch of these smaller pieces with the pinpointer. A lot of these are going to be just 100% copper that just need to get cleaned off. I think this nugget right here is almost all copper. It looks like it's fairly heavy. Feels like it's almost all copper. And then this is the bucket that I brought back. This bucket's about half full. So basically what I did in the pile was scan everything with a metal detector, and anything that set the metal detector off I threw in a bucket and brought home. And then once I got it home, I went through piece by piece individually with a pinpointer and tried to make sure that it had a good signal in it. Like this piece of ore right here, it set off the big metal detector at the mine, but when I brought it home and I put the smaller pinpointer, it's just a Mine Lab pinpointer, when I put the smaller pinpointer on it, it doesn't set the pinpointer off on this side of the sample or this side of the sample. But as I bring the pinpointer to the middle of the sample, there's definitely something in this seam. It looks like there's a quartz seam in this piece of ore. So like I said, it doesn't set off the metal detector on this side or this side. But once I bring the pinpointer to the middle of the sample, there's definitely copper in the middle of the sample. So I just went piece by piece to make sure that everything that I was going to clean in acid actually had a signal on this Mine Lab Profind pinpointer. So I just got a station set up for cleaning the copper nuggets. I moved my big work table out into the driveway. I put all the copper ore on this piece of plywood. There's some more in the gold pan. I put all the small copper nuggets in this cup. I was just going to dip some acid into the cup. and let them get cleaned in that. Have some safety glasses, a respirator. I'm gonna put 100% acid in this bucket. I'm gonna mix this bowl 50-50. Then I'm gonna use this tub to soak the samples in after they come out of the acid. I'm gonna leave them in there for about 24 hours so they can get cleaned off. Then I also have some extra water here in case I need to put some more samples in that water, or if I just need some extra water for something. But I'm gonna put the respirator on and the safety glasses, put acid in here. I'm gonna fill this bucket about half full of acid. I think that's gonna be enough to submerge the samples in it. And then I'm gonna put the rest of the acid into this bucket right here. I already put about a gallon of water in it, so I'm gonna put about a half a gallon of acid in it. So this is gonna be mixed like 2-to-1 water to acid. So, and then this will be my rinse tub. I have some of the higher grade samples in this 1 gallon bucket that's 100% acid. I have the smaller nuggets in this smaller cup that's 100% acid. And then I put some of the lower grade samples in this bucket that's 2 parts to 1 water to acid, so it's a third acid, 2/3 water. And then this is my tub that I'm going to dunk them in. So just going to start checking the samples every once in a while and see when I want to pull them out and finish them. It looks like some of these samples are getting really clean already. Looks like the 100% acid bucket is working pretty good. Can't really see what's going on with the little nuggets. The water's so dirty. I might have put a few too many nuggets in that little bowl, but I've pulled out some samples. It looks like everything's getting cleaned off. I'm gonna give it like another 45 minutes or so and then start checking them. I'm gonna stop some at like an hour, and then I'm gonna give some more time also. I'm just gonna kind of go sample by sample and try and get the best looking samples out of each piece. Okay, the copper ore's been in the acid for about 40 minutes. I'm gonna get the respirator and gloves back on, start checking some samples and see how they look.
So I just got all the samples out of the acid. I soaked them in the acid for about 4 or 5 hours. Looks like some of them could go back into an acid bath again. But it does look like the copper is going to need to be shined up a little bit more. Can definitely see a lot more of the copper on the stone now than you could before. You can also see a lot of the, I think that's datolite in the stones. The reason I think that's datolite is a lot of the stones that had like quartz in them, the quartz basically disintegrated in the acid, so. And I put a bunch of the smaller nuggets in this little bucket right here. I just have everything drying out on paper towels right now, and I'll try and go through and get some decent pictures of the samples.
These are some of the photos of the copper ore that I collected from the Caledonia copper mine in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I cleaned all the copper ore with muriatic acid, took each piece out of the acid, dipped it in water to rinse it, and cleaned it off with a scrub brush. After that, I took it out of the water, dried it off with a paper towel, and then I actually ended up spraying just a little bit of clear polyurethane on the ore just to help keep the copper from oxidizing later on. I just wanted the copper to look more shiny in my gem and mineral cabinet. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you get a chance to head to Michigan's Upper Peninsula and find some copper ore of your own. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes, and thanks for watching.